Gen 4 Pokemon design. I played the crap out of this game, and I probably know way too much about it. I know all its weird little quirks and all its cool stuff, but when I'm looking over the Pokemon designs, it does seem to me like there was an effort to like age up the design, like make a lot of them cool or muscular or like good at fighting. There's also a lot of Pokemon from this generation that are finished evolutionary lines from earlier ones, and a lot of them tend to be like bigger and bulky and muscular. And so it seems like maybe that was a conscious effort. And even if you look at the starters, it just seems like they're more polished designs for whatever reason. There's more detail or something about it just seems like there was like an effort to push it a certain direction, make it more, I don't know, Digimon-y or action-y or more appealing to boys. I don't know. There's something about this design process that makes it look more unified in a certain direction. Because I'm so familiar with this one, it's kind of an odd list. So, and first time you're gonna see legendaries, but we'll get to it. So, first one is Infernape. And they did something, really all the starters, they did something interesting with this generation in that the fully evolved form of the starter does have an answer against the starter that's good against it, which obviously you're going to fight in the game, so it's nice to have that. So for example, when the grass one fully evolves, it gets that ground typing and it can hit the fire Pokemon hard. When the fire Pokemon fully evolves, it gets this fighting typing, it can hit that water Pokemon hard. When the water Pokemon evolves, it gets steel typing, which I guess defends against the grass one better, but the grass one could easily pick up an ice move, which we'll get to it. There's some weird things with this one. Infernape, for example, was a very good Pokemon. It's the second version of a firefighting Pokemon, but it is very fast, something that Blaziken wasn't really, and it could hit pretty hard with some of the new moves in this game. So if you wanted a fire Pokemon, it was a great pick to have. So very strong design in that regard. We'll get to some of the downfalls of that later, but there's some interesting things with starters, and they all have some pretty cool designs. Torterra, for example, is like a bonsai tree garden sort of thing. It just looks neat. And Infernape's design is pretty cool. It's like the fighting monkey based on I think some Chinese folklore. Empoleon is a penguin with some blades and a tuxedo and a trident on his head, so that also looks cool. Number two, we got Vespiquen. Vespiquen was like one of the few bug Pokemon I felt not embarrassed to use on a team outside of like Pinsir and Scyther were pretty good, but Scyther and Caesar they didn't really consider it a bug Pokemon anymore. So maybe the most buggy Pokemon at the time that felt like it was halfway decent that I didn't feel embarrassed using. And it's a cool design. It's got a queen thing going on, so it looked interesting. Kind of it's just a good design. Just good design. Number three, I got Mismagius. I said that they would fix this mistake later. I did have a Mismagius on my team in this game, but it kind of saved my butt. It was more of a Wally ghost, and obviously that had been represented at that point with Dusclops. But I was happy to see Misdrevius have an evolution and happy to use it in game. It also looks like a witch, so win, 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 win. And number four, I got Lucario. It's so popular it became a Smash Brothers character. Fighting Steel was an interesting typing, and definitely felt like they pushed Lucario as a Pokemon to pay attention to in that game. I have another interesting typing next in Abomasnow, Abominable Snowman. That's also a turnip, maybe radish, something. It's an odd design. In game, you maybe didn't want something that slow to have a weakness to fire, but it looks interesting. Next, I got Bronzong. Same typing as Metagross, Steel Psychic, but obviously a very different route and much more defensive-minded Pokemon. Good Pokemon to have as a late-game boss kind of Pokemon, and just a cool design overall. I also got Drapion, a nice combination of things, and the thing that looks most like a boss from Legend of Zelda. Also have Magnezone. I'm a big Magneton fan, so it was cool to have it have an evolution. It was also cool for that evolution to be a flying saucer. Kind of neat. I believe it picked up steel typing there as well, which was nice to have. Is that what picked it up? Yes, it did. Very nice. So, and then just kind of in general, there were a lot of Pokemon that finally got that evolved form. So there was a whole bunch. It seemed like there's maybe a dozen, but these were kind of like after game. I feel like Magnezone may have been during the game, but after game you can get things like Tangrowth and Dusknoir and Electivire, and those are all really cool final versions of those Pokemon. Their designs were neat. Their standard playability, or their playability in the competitive scene was kind of neat. I don't know how they do now, but it seemed like at the time they were pretty cool. Finally, I have a legendary for the first time on one of these lists. Giratina. I'm not a giant legendary fan. There's just something about them that makes me go, I don't know. It feels like cheating almost. But Giratina was very, very cool. Ghost Dragon, very cool typing. And I remember trying to catch it just like coming out of the shadows, and like there it was, a big, ginormous Pokemon. So that wraps up the best list. Now, the worst. I think this is where this game gets complicated. So, worst, Chatot is a joke Pokemon. You can like record your voice, and it's a flying Pokemon. We didn't need another flying Pokemon, whatever. It's unnecessary. Perugly, kind of same deal. Another normal cat. Is this the third one so far? Oh, it's got decent speed. Like, I don't need it. Honestly, I thought this Pokemon was in the 5th gen. That's how fondly I remember it, not even realizing it's in this game. I also have Lumineon, which is a fish. It's just a basic water fish. We didn't necessarily need another one of these. Sometimes, if you were given a basic water fish and there's not that many options for water Pokemon, great. That was not this game. So, Lumineon, nah, didn't need it. Thanks. Worst Seaking? I mean, it looks nice. If you appreciate fish, it looks nice, but don't need it. Number 4, Infernape. Again, best and worst. There were problems with Infernape. So I started off with the grass Pokemon. I got the grass ground Pokemon, and it looks very cool. It's very nice. I appreciate using it. It is so slow that, and though it has ground, Infernape still feels like it could beat it because it just hits so dang hard. And the water Pokemon could also take it out pretty easily. It feels like there's something imbalanced about the starting 3 in this one. It just feels like Infernape could take out all of them, and that's not the greatest thing in the world. Infernape, I think, was a competitive, viable Pokemon that was a starter, and sometimes that's a problem when they just give that to you. In this game, it's doubly a problem because Infernape was one of 2 fire Pokemon you could have before the Elite Four. So if you didn't pick up this one, you had Rapidash. And there was enough reasons for you to have a fire Pokemon to fight the Elite Four in this game that really felt like you missed out if you didn't have Infernape. It just seemed like Infernape was always the best answer to the question of which starter should I pick in this game, any way you slice it, which is a problem. So it felt like Infernape was kind of a mistake in that regard with its design. Kind of unfortunate there. Obviously, if they had stuck another fire Pokemon being available, they probably would have fixed it. But now that I think about it, they have the opposite problem in Gen 5. But we'll get there when we get to Gen 5. Number 5 on this list is Phione. There's a lot of legendaries in this game, and some of them I actually did appreciate going out and catching and using. And this one just combines everything I hate. It's like a legendary Pokemon. Okay, another legendary. Fine. But it's also a baby Pokemon. Like, somehow you have to breed a legendary in order to get a baby. Like, I don't like baby Pokemon. I don't like legendary Pokemon. I definitely don't like a baby legendary Pokemon. So, those are my five. They kind of hit a few different ideas. The maybe too many legendaries, but also I don't need a legendary baby. Infernape being like imbalanced. Lumineon and Purugly and Chatot just kind of being like more of the same, more a meme Pokemon. And the best, I guess, is just there's a lot of cool looking Pokemon that are the final version of an evolutionary line, and some interesting typings in this generation. So that's my list. The next one is Gen 5, which is like a whole thing.